I was recently listening to this talk from Alan Watts, and it reminded me of something that is happening now with the technology and the singularity. But he was talking about how we were constantly working on developing technology, and this talk was probably 50 years ago, and he was saying how we're getting to the place where at some point in the future, and this moment is now coming potentially nearer and nearer to the point of actually reaching a state where all of the computers have the same awareness as the collective of all human mind power, and that at some point we may each individually be able to access that and then just be tapped into this computational matrix of wizardry that is a million times more powerful than any of us have access to right now. And the obvious implications of that are that that's crazy and we should probably prepare for that. And that, people like Elon Musk, regardless of what you think of him otherwise, he's very aware of artificial intelligence and the fact that it's really powerful and it's continuing, we are continuing to develop it, and therefore we should, safeguard ourselves and have, consortiums of people who are like, yeah, we know how artificial intelligence works, and this is how we can protect ourselves from ourselves by externalizing our consciousness into these things. And essentially the idea is that, back to Alan Watts, if you don't know Alan Watts, look up Alan Watts. He was a reverend and a philosopher, Zen Buddhist practitioner, and just generally a really talented author and speaker. And so anyway, so he says how our bodies, essentially, when we think about it, we're made up of billions or trillions of cells. And when we reflect on what a cell is an individual unit, right? It's completely encapsulated in its perfection of being a cell. And at the same time, like a cell, would you say like a cell has individual awareness? It's hard to say. It could, but when combined with trillions of other cells into an I, into a me of this is now a person, then we would say certainly that conglomeration of those trillions of individual cells now has this singular awareness, right? And it's sort of like we as the individuals are already the singularity. So when you reflect on what the singularity is in that high technology sort of way, we can recognize that we are already the singularity. Like each one of us is a singularity. And then if you take it another level, you're like, well, okay, like if a cell isn't an individual awareness, why would me as this little tiny body, essentially in an infinite universe, be an individualized awareness? Certainly, then, if you were to take that to the next level, like all the combination of all the humans and perhaps all the living things on Earth together create this one singular awareness of Earth and of this, what you might call the Gaian mind. And this is an idea that's not new, and it existed for, I'm sure that, our great ancestors of the, late Paleolithic era probably thought the same way, is that like this whole concept of the separate I as the defining thing of our time, of like so much focus is put into developing the individual, and that's like a very important thing to do. And it's also just important to recognize that we are a conglomeration, that we are already a singularity, and that this is like you being you is what it feels like to be a singularity. And that then now preparing for the next step of what is that next phase like, of recognizing that the singularity is now evolving into the next level of being totally connected to the entire universe, the entire world, or at least the knowledge of all of humanity. And when we come into that recognition, it brings like a deeper awareness of how the past relates to the future, and how we can bring all of that into greater wisdom in the present moment, especially for the development of technology, and especially for the just direction of our lives and where we put our focus and how we guide our thoughts and our energy into greater awareness of the whole and greater connection to the self at the same time. So I hope that made sense. But if it didn't, you're gonna have to read some Alan Watts, and I look forward to sharing more with you as this evolves, because it honestly is a really big topic, and it's something that is very defining of this time, whether we know it or not yet. And there's benefits and dangers of artificial intelligence and of being a human being. And together we can sort and solve these things, and we will evolve into being the magical beings that we are becoming. So, thank you. Peace.